We are back. Myself, Ross, along with Andy Whitelaw, Nicolas Anil, and Bob Holmes, taking a look at the EPL Matchweek 34. The games are coming thick and fast. Let's start with Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. Palace have been out of form since the restart, Andy. Chelsea are coming into form, and now it's getting to the stage where if you're chasing Champions League football, this is a valuable 3 points away from home that Frank Lampard's side have to get.
Yeah, you think down in 14th Palace, really, it's kind of that, are they starting to put their feet up? Are they starting to think about holidays already? They've kind of been playing like it. Not good from the Eagles recently, but I definitely think Chelsea will fancy Champions League, particularly after the weekend. I talked about how cohesive they looked under Lampard, but having those options, whether they're playing Giroud, whether they're playing Tammy Abraham, everyone's playing for the manager. Young players getting better and better. Mason Mount getting better every time I see him. Ross Barkley probably in the peak of his career. So such a competitor as Lampard. 57 points they're on. They're just a point behind Leicester. Yeah, they got United in form as well, breathing down their necks, 2 points behind. But Chelsea will fancy this, and he's got no problem getting his players up for it. Against Crystal Palace, you fancy them to put them to the sword by a couple of goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Wednesday, 1 a.m. kickoff. Bob, Watford are currently above the relegation zone, 17th. Now, it's in their hands. They're playing Norwich at home. Nigel Pearson's side haven't been great since the restart, but this is the one, right? This is the game that's going to ensure safety.
Well, you'd think so. It'll be a final fling for Norwich. I mean, mathematically, they can still stay up, but they certainly have to win this one. Watford, I think if they do win this, it's going to look pretty bleak for Aston Villa and Bournemouth. And you would think Watford have got it in them to win this. I mean, they were doing all right when Nigel Pearson first took over, and you suddenly saw a different Watford. I mean, they have actually got some decent players. And he managed to get them out of the doldrums that they were in. And he worked his magic at Leicester, of course, the season before they won the league. It was the great escape. They were one of the few teams to be bottom at Christmas and actually survive. That was under him. So he knows how to rescue a club. And if he will be incandescent if they don't get 3 points here. And I think the prospect of facing an incandescent Nigel Pearson is probably going to be enough to motivate Watford. I can't see any other result than a Watford win here.
Okay, that one is also 1 a.m. kickoff on Wednesday. Arsenal versus Leicester, two teams with European aspirations. Go head-to-head. It's at the Emirates. Now, I want you to talk up Leicester, Nicolas Anil. Can Brendan Rodgers, well, they've had a good win. They've shown, maybe they've reminded themselves with that win at the weekend, how good they were in the early part of the season.
Yeah, they were already beating the likes of Man City and Chelsea before the coronavirus lockdown happened. And I think they were pretty unlucky against Everton. They should have got something from that game. But they were already showing their class. What I want to see is the likes of Kylian Iheanacho stepping up, the likes of James Maddison. I know he was injured in the last game, but you can't just depend on Jamie Vardy for goals. You can see how Leicester operate. They're such a fluid team, but sometimes the over-reliance on Vardy seems to, be their downfall. Kylian Iheanacho was a great talent, at Manchester City. I think he was touted to be one of the main starters, but then it really didn't happen for him there. And now he's been given a chance. He's been put in a front two system with Jamie Vardy, and if both these players can strike up a good partnership, there is no reason why they can't unsettle an Arsenal defense that has been, here and there. So, really looking for Leicester to make at least a point of Arsenal in this match.
Okay, well, it won't be easy, Andy Whitelaw. Nicolas Pepe actually didn't feature in that Wolves win. His wife was giving birth. He'll be back available. We know how useful he is coming off that right-hand side for Arsenal. That's another dimension, and that's something Leicester should fear.
Yeah, Nicolas Pepe is quietly got his stats together. I think it's 8 goals, 8 assists or around that, and maybe 9 goals now. He scored from the spot, didn't he? He's such a talent, but one thing that worried Arsenal fans, I think, was the application or the ability to play at the pace in the Premier League. We've seen so many foreign players with big reputations, particularly flair players, not really produce the goods. But even the greats like Robert Pires took a while to find their feet. I think that's happening with Pepe now. And particularly when he plays at the Emirates, he looks a bit more comfortable, doesn't he? I think next season he could hit the ground running. But he's just such a talent. It's almost a question of whether you do play him on that right-hand side. So he can play on the right, can play on the left. And he's so adept on the counter-attack as well. There's options, isn't there, for Mikel Arteta? Saka can play there. Martinelli injured at the moment, but new contract. He gives you another option. And he likes playing Aubameyang out wide for some reason as well. Can debate whether that's a good idea or not. But the main point really is that Mesut Ozil, the highest paid player and supposedly the creator-in-chief, is not being missed at the moment because of these other options. Now, it's a whole other debate as to what on earth is going on there. That, for me, that situation is shocking and there's no way back. Even a big FA Cup semi-final goal will not forgive Mesut Ozil's transgressions. He's got to go as soon as possible. Who's going to take him? I'm not sure anyone will at the price they're going to have to pay.
Yeah. All right. Arsenal against Leicester. It's a 3:15 a.m. kickoff on Wednesday. Bob Holmes, if Man City can't beat Southampton away, they have absolutely no chance against Steve Bruce's Newcastle Thursday at 1 a.m.
No, amazing, isn't it? Manchester City. I mean, you wonder how on earth you get the ball off them. Yet they've managed to lose 9 league games. And Pep is scratching his head trying to figure it out too. I mean, they had about 75% possession against Southampton. I mean, their goal was like the Alamo at the end. Fantastic performance by McCarthy, as Nick said. But Manchester City, yes. I mean, after a game like that, it must be very difficult to know quite what to do. I mean, they didn't do a lot wrong. I mean, there was the aberration of the goal with Edison finding himself out of position, but it wasn't really his fault. Apart from that, they totally dominated the game. They just couldn't find the net. And you might say, oh, Aguero wasn't playing. But Aguero was playing for most of those other defeats. So you can't really put it down to his absence. It just wouldn't go in. And it's like that sometimes. I don't think they've got to change their style or anything. I don't think it's in their DNA to try to change it anyway. But they are likely to come out steaming. And I think there could be a hiding on here, actually, because they've only got to get an early goal and they could go on and win big against Newcastle. I mean, the golfing class is quite huge, isn't it, between them? And it doesn't matter how Pep rotates the side. They've got enough talent in there. He is beginning to rotate. You could see that was not absolutely their best 11. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne was on the bench. Phil Foden was on the bench. They came on, but it was a bit too late to change things. So I foresee a big scoring home win here for City, which doesn't really get them anywhere. And of course, we have to mention the court case because the verdict is coming up.
Yeah.
It could be this week, and that could have a massive effect on the club. It's whether they are banned for 2 years, 1 year, or not at all. And you know, a lot of players have said they'll leave, and Pep, his own future, there's a question mark against it. So it's a bit of an anxious time for City off the field.
Okay, Nicolas Anil, taking a look at Brighton against Liverpool. It's a Thursday 3:15 a.m. kickoff. Now, Brighton can actually go and lose this one because they've done enough. But they won't. They're a hard-working side, as we've said before. But is Liverpool going to be too much for them, you reckon?
I don't think so, judging by the way Liverpool have been playing in the last couple of games. With the exception of the thrashing against Crystal Palace, Liverpool have not been the side that have commanded such a huge lead in the league. And I think Brighton will take the game to them. Brighton will give them a tough time. They will be physical. They will try to get the second balls as fast as possible. And it's up to Liverpool to really, try and get an early goal and build the momentum from then on. I sense that Brighton could nick a point, but it really depends on who scores the first goal in this match.
All right. Strange to be previewing Spurs, Bournemouth versus Spurs on Friday, 1 a.m. when actually Spurs haven't even played Everton yet. That's how thick and fast the football's coming along. So let's look at Spurs a little bit, Andy Whitelaw, Arsenal fan, and Jose Mourinho. What he said that Sheffield United defeat really, really hurt him, and it did. I mean, it really set Spurs back. But what he's got to work with, do you think Jose is doing what Jose does at Tottenham?
It's increasingly looking like Daniel Levy just signed a manager who turned him down once just to prove that he could. I'm not sure about this match between Spurs and Jose. Jose's past few ventures, shall we say, it seems to be a little bit of a decline. He seems to have been found out in terms of almost like clockwork, that the whole third season thing, the whole signing overinflated players, falling out with people, ostracizing players as well. Now, I'm not sure about the complete ins and outs of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, although I do know that Amazon are filming a documentary about the whole thing. So we look forward to that. I'm not sure what's happening, to be honest, with Tottenham, and I'm not sure their fans are either. It's got to be frustrating, though, for them, with having had probably massive hopes and ambitions going into this season, and they're even worse off than Arsenal at the moment, which is saying something. How much needs to be done to fix it? I'm not sure, because there's still some fantastic players there. Still got Harry Kane. They've still got talent throughout the squad. Sorry,
Bob.
I was going to say, there could be a St. Totteringham's Day this season after all.
Ooh.
Put it in your calendar.
Rub it in, why don't you? All right, let's wrap up with a look at Aston Villa against Man United. Man United hoping to make it 4 Premier League victories in a row. Villa really, really need to build on, well, the 60 minutes that they showed at Anfield, Bob. If they're going to stand any chance of surviving, because games are running out now.
Yeah, they are. I think when we talk about Villa, you could actually use the recording of every previous show in the last 5 weeks and just play it again, because it is the same story, isn't it? I mean, they just can't buy a goal. They've only managed 2 points since they came back from 5 games. During the lockdown, I think a lot of people thought that Aston Villa, they'll get it together. Those injured players will be back to fitness, and Jack Grealish will be raring to go, all that. But it hasn't happened for them. And it's not as if the other teams have been any great shakes, apart from Brighton. Brighton have been the outstanding team of that bottom few, and they're virtually safe. But there's been a lot of competition to go down, and but Villa are looking like favourites, or second favourites after Norwich, aren't they? They're down there with Bournemouth, and it shouldn't be the case, given the money they spent before this season started. They spent a lot of money, and I think they've got a good manager, but it just hasn't quite happened for them. The injuries came at the wrong time, and I fear for them now. I really do. And I think they're catching Man United here when at the wrong time. United are on a roll. I mean, forward-wise, their front three have scored more than Liverpool's front three between them.
Which is saying something, isn't it?
It is. But they've still got weaknesses at the back. They're not quite there yet. But I would say United should win this comfortably.
Do you reckon if Harry Maguire wore a sarong during matches, he won't get nutmegged? Just a thought. Leave it right. That's it. We're out of time. So I've got to say thanks to the guys. Thank you, Andy Whitelaw. Much enjoyed you coming on the show.
Hey, great to be back. Good to see you, boys. And always a little bit easier when Arsenal have won, of course.
Thank you, Nicolas Anil.
Thank you, Ross. Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah, and thanks.
I thought that's why you were on.
And thanks, Bob Holmes.
Okay, thanks everybody. Great. Cheers.
Cheeky this week, isn't he, Bob? Right, thanks for listening. Everybody, have a great week and subscribe to our YouTube channel, TFIF on video. Bye-bye now.